So, Don, we're at the end of 2018 here. Christmas is upon us, and we've done this now for, since January, right? So almost a full year of doing the podcast, and we pretty much got together last year and kind of said, hey, let's do a podcast. And I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, let's do it, right? And what are your impressions of having done, now this will be 37 episodes, talking to different people on different topics around health and fitness? What do you think of the last year?
Well, I mean, first off, out of the 37 episodes, including this one, we probably had on, 33 guests?
Yep.
Do you think roughly?
Yep.
We definitely had over 30. So we had over 30 guests who I thought were, very intelligent people, very well respected in their field. And, it's funny, every session wasn't completely, it's funny with these podcasts, you're not sitting there reading off a question sheet. It's like, I'm not sitting there, you're not, you're probably a little more organized with it than I am, but the conversations go in its own direction and things just kind of pop up and things pop in the head, and you have your kind of protocol or your syllabus that you're trying to follow. But, all in all, it takes some pretty cool directions, but I was probably more pleased with it than I thought I would have been. I mean, if you asked me at the end of 2017, when we kind of agreed to do this, which I think we agreed to do this end of December.
Pretty much. It was a pretty quick turnaround.
So if you were to go at the end of 17 and show us the list of people that we had on and the topics and the consistency, I would have been really pleased with it. I think like anything else, I think we're just going to dial things in a little bit better. And I think it's gaining more and more popularity. And I think it always becomes that much easier to get more people on. I know there's a lot of people that we can bring on that we haven't, because we're obviously waiting to continue to increase popularity. But, on the other hand, we brought in everyone that we brought on, it was like, they were great people. I was happy with it. I really was. I don't think there was one session that went completely awry. Was there any sessions that we had where you just kind of where we looked at each other and we were like,
why did we interview this person? Yeah. No, it was good. It was
even your boy, what's his name? The one who flipped out on me.
But that was after. During it was fine.
Yeah, we were fine. And then he got all upset and he called me forgot what he called me. He called me a selfless effing something, whatever. And
narcissistic psychopath, right?
Yeah, he called me that. And then he called me, he said, my content's terrible. And then he said that I'm insecure, that I have to walk around with my shirt off and all this lovely stuff.
That was a good $20 I spent on him for that.
Touched. I was so touched. And I was really even more appreciative of the lovely note that he messaged me on Facebook. It was just absolutely heartwarming.
As you know, you can't please everyone. So.
It was
But yeah,
no. A bad day. He's having a bad day. It's part of my self-improvement.
But there's a lot of interviews that made up for it. Like I really enjoyed when you brought Liev Schreiber on, and that one kind of he drove that one, and we didn't really have to do much because he had some great stories and related everything back to his routine. And I thought that was interesting for people to hear.
Oh my God, you just made me think of something. You got to write this down. You know who we have to bring on? He's a buddy of mine. I don't know if he's allowed to, but George Paros, who was a 9-year NHL player, won a Stanley Cup with Anaheim, had a career-ending injury, concussion, and now basically his exact title, he's like the president of the not concussion committee in the NHL. It's like they're the ones that basically decide suspensions, and they're the ones who are reviewing hits and penalties and all these. He's going around the league. He had to go around the league in I think September, October. I think in that 1 month he had to fly to every organization and he had to talk to the players about concussions and about protocols on, I think that's a really, really interesting topic. You know, how is it hockey players are skating at 30 miles an hour on the ice? You know, they can combine at, 60 miles an hour. I mean, can you imagine getting hit by a 60 mile an hour car? I mean, it's pretty serious stuff. And, but yet they have a piece of plastic covering their eyes. And in my eyes, honestly, and people are going to roll their eyes to this. I'm using the word eyes a lot, but I think they're the toughest athletes out there. Well,
they're saying that people are focusing almost exclusively on the NFL for this stuff. And so it's under the radar with the concussions and the traumatic brain injuries. So I think that's eventually going to come to light, a bit more, and they have to
I want you to think about something, because I know you're a football guy, and you're going to be able to give me some honest input on this. You get hockey players that are flying around at 30 miles an hour on ice. There are boards that they're getting hit into. There's collisions. Oh, and by the way, there's a puck that weighs, the hell does it weigh? What the hell does a hockey puck weigh? I don't even know.
It weighs enough.
Enough. That's traveling at 90 plus miles an hour. I think it's one of the most brutal sports out there. And
it's dangerous.
It's dangerous. We're playing 4 or 5 nights a week.
Knives on your feet. Yeah.
Knives on your feet. Yeah. Collisions, boards. Did I say that? I mean, there's fights. There's fights.
Well, did you see the ice itself is dangerous? Because did you see that figure skater? The guy lifted her and then was twirling around, and then he was bringing her down, and she went headfirst into the ice.
It's terrible. Yeah. I mean, it's terrible. I would like to. Well, I'm impressed with the NHL and how they're taking the proper precautions to be able to protect these players now, and how they're sitting there. Georgia's got to review film every night, and this is something that I think is incredible. I mean, it really is. I mean, the game's come a long way. The game, and he'll admit, is a hell of a lot faster than it was a decade ago. I mean, you look at these players and how they're moving the puck compared to the 80s. It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer.
Well, they got to do that NASCAR wall thing with the board so they kind of absorb some impact or something. Chicanes? I don't know.
Yeah. Set up chicanes. Instead of boards, you'd actually have like big, cushiony.
Yeah.
That you can run to. Imagine if the boards weren't. God, I wonder. I mean, imagine if they were kind of like chicane. You'd stick into it though. I mean, you wouldn't really. And how would the puck roll around? It would never happen.
I don't know.
Stupid.
I'll figure it out.
I'd love to have George on. I think that would be interesting.
Okay, we'll get George on. How about any chance we'll get Mary Poppins on?
Ooh, Emily. To talk about training? Well, what would we talk to her about? Let me tell you, man, she's one of the most in shape women I've worked with. Like ever. Like, she's incredible.
Yeah.
She's incredible. She can do anything. She's strong. She understands the importance of like picking up shit. There was a bunch of people like I was shocked. Some of the women who I've worked with do not like anything fluffy. I worked with Cindy Crawford recently. She's like, no, I want to pick up stuff.
Nice.
Totally got it. Blake Lively, no, I want to pick up stuff. They're not. Well, a lot of them want Pilates and long toned muscles. I'm like, this. You're not like.
Yeah, they can go train with
Tom Brady. Yeah,
the
modality. That's another thing too. Like the modality is not going to like when we do long tone. If we use those terminologies, those are marketing terminologies. Like I want to be very clear to people that there's not an exercise I'm going to give you that's going to suddenly shape the muscle differently. Like suddenly I'm giving you a band, so we're going to grow the muscle this way rather than this way. Like it makes. Would you agree with this? Completely false. Like there's no
it's all crap.
Please just agree with me on the other end. We need to teach people this. We are not going to elongate a muscle. It's not happening. Sorry.
No, it's all crap.
Everyone online who's telling you that,
or what's the other word? The other word is sculpting. We're going to sculpt your muscles. Yeah. Awesome. Get a chisel out.
Tone up with Don.
Yeah, that'll be in your next Instagram post, I'm sure.
Tone up with Don. No. I understand. You got to use certain words to be able to attract specific people, and we're not. No, unfortunately, listen, we're not talking to fitness experts here. I'm not expecting people.
So, okay, on that vein, what is our podcast goal for 2019? What are we going to do to educate people about this stuff?
I think we got to present some low hanging fruit stuff that, seems very obvious to you or not, or I, but a lot of people out there, they just don't understand yet. And rightfully so. It's not what they do for a living. So I think we have to make sure that, we can get into some complex stuff. Listen, getting into hormones is important. It's very important to me. It's very important to you, but people don't even know the basics yet. They don't even understand that, like, all right, sleep, like that's going to fix a lot. And I think it's just continue to educate people. I think we have to take topics, and I think we have to build on that topic. And if we feel like that topic's enough and we've covered enough, then we can move on. And if we don't, then we got to go to a B, a C, a part B, a part C. Does that make sense? Almost so like next year we become a complete encyclopedia covering all different topics.
Like
Kids, what's that?
You wanted to talk about running, and I know in the fall I had a woman come to your gym, and we worked with her about, I think she wanted to do a marathon, and her body was broken down. She was having pain everywhere. And so I go, oh, what were you doing? And it was like an online marathon program and stuff. We talk about some of these canned online programs, and it was having her do these ridiculous volumes of work, and it was just crushing her. And so when we changed some things around, I think she ended up finishing the marathon in a decent time, the New York Marathon, and stuff like that, where we have to educate people that sometimes you'll go to an expert, and you talked about this, about the online stuff. People present themselves as experts, and then they give you kind of egregious information. And we just need to educate people on how to, pick the right exercise modality or go to the right place to not be overtrained and crushed.
Well, so. Yeah, I would like to, at one point I'd like to take this topic and I'd like to educate people. Let's bring someone, a researcher in. Let's bring someone with some solid research, and let's explain to people that, you cannot elongate a muscle. Like Pilates, yoga, like this is not going to change, like the muscle's going to grow how it grows. Like if I do a preacher curl, if I do a bicep curl, I'm not like suddenly changing the angle. Charlie Weingroff, I think, put it the best way. He's like, listen, you're loading the joint differently. It's going to make it feel different. But when I see a bodybuilder who's like, oh, I put an inch onto my peak this year from doing this movement, I'm kind of like, well, how do you know you wouldn't have done that from doing another movement? Maybe it was just
I did a post on blood flow restriction, because I hear people are just doing that. Like, that's it. They're not actually training properly anymore. Like, oh, we're going to do blood flow restriction, which has shown to increase some hypertrophy, but it's like totally off the wall, like what people do.
That's what, we didn't talk about this guy, Ben Pekulski, when we had Ben on.
Yeah.
He's someone that I could have had a few more episodes with. I really enjoyed, him just discussing, it's not how many exercises, it's how you execute that one movement. Mm-hmm. And I think he really got down to a simplistic approach. And even going and training him, it's kind of like, well, he believes in finding that movement. He's a bodybuilding coach, so he's into finding that movement that you really can get an optimal level of contraction from, and then just being great at that movement. It's no different than, talking about with Charlie. Charlie's like, all right, or me, it's like, all right, well, today we're just going to bench press. Well, what else are we doing for upper body? We don't need to do anything else. Or it's like, we're going to deadlift. Like, that's got carryover. Like, we're hitting every area of the body. Let's just get really strong and be really great at that movie and hit our accessory movements and move on. So, I would love to have some of these people back on.
So any New Year's resolutions for you that may not be podcast related? Anything you want to do differently, or?
It's just, I think I definitely want to simplify a little bit more in my life and in my business. And where in the past I was throwing so many balls in the air, and I'm not saying not being great at any of them or not being good. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that at times I felt like it would become a little overwhelming, and you can dilute what the main focus was. And I think I've really kind of starting to figured out my path and my direction, and it's going to change, but just focusing on being great at those things. Like, we got through a year of this, I already know this is a success. Like, I know this is going to go well, and I just continue to put some more time into this, and make sure that we keep doing what we're doing. And we got 37 episodes. Let's get 45 next year. You know what I'm saying? And let's make sure that the library that we're building, I'd like it to be a library. I'd like people to be able to go to it and be broken down into categories and, brain function, sex drive, hypertrophy, powerlifting, sprinting, long distance running, sprinting for fat loss. You can start covering different categories where people come in now and they're like, oh, wow, this is almost an encyclopedia. I can listen to some incredible researchers or coaches and really, because what are we trying to do here? We're trying to help people and teach people, right? I mean, that's the main objective, right? Mm-hmm. What about you?
Yeah, I agree with you in terms of just not simplifying for myself, but I'm always trying to simplify for others. And, 2019 is going to be, I turn 50. So I have some old, my own physical goals that I want to achieve and say hey,
I'm cutting you off.
I'm going to set some running times for me, for different distances and say, look, I want to hit these by the time August is my birthday. So I want to be able to run this. I want to be able to lift this. I want to be able, and nothing stupid, nothing crazy like I used to do. But I think for the next half of my life, I want to kind of set the tone and, have some tangible goals that I kind of show people hey, I'm 50. I did this. You can too. It's not that difficult. It's just focusing in on some specific things. Right. So
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. What about with work? Anything specific?
We'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, I'm working with football, basketball, a lot of different NCAA teams and just try to expand that. And I don't know. Yeah, just I'm working more, I think, on some online education stuff. So, and trying to get that information out that way. So.
People what I'd love to see from a lot of our listeners is I would still like to see them request some topics, because you and I know what we want to talk about, but I want to hear, what people out there are wanting to hear and how can we help improve them. So if they got any questions, I think they should definitely fire them off to us, and then we'll go and we'll find a researcher, a doctor, whoever it might be, and bring them on and really have a discussion. The cool thing about this stuff is it's funny with every person that we talk to, there's very few things that have a definitive, this is how you do it answer. There's research, but as we know, research changes. And how many times have you seen things, well, the new research shows, and it's something completely different. So, even with training, BFR, yeah, sure. But if you're just doing that, is it enough? These are things that I think suddenly when someone hears some research, they go so far in that direction with it, and they start neglecting other components that could really help them out. And at the end of the day, it's really just finding some balance.
Yeah. So what I'll do is I will post a couple of excerpts of some of our, what I think are some of our more interesting interviews to follow up for the rest of this episode here. And people can, if they're just jumping on now, maybe they'll get a taste of some of the stuff we've done in the past. So.
Okay. Sounds good to me. So I think right now we're going to close out for the 2018 year. I know on behalf of Derek and I, we'd like to thank everyone for Derek. You can agree with me here. I've talked about it. It's pretty cool to be able to go out or meet someone and them say how they love our podcast and the positive influence it's given on them. And, just kind of why we do what we do is to help people out. So like we said, guys, have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year. Message us with any questions that you might have. Please be safe, and you wait till you see what we have in store for you for 2019, because it's going to be special stuff. Right, D?
All the best in 2019.
I love it. Thanks, guys.
Take care. Have a good one. But do you have an idea where your career is going to go? As you age, and I think this is when I deal with athletes, it's the same thing. How are you going to, do the next 10 years? And are you going to play more roles that are less physical? I watched Spotlight with my wife, and I thought that was an amazing performance.
Thank you. No, that was just a real treat to be involved in. A lot of friends on that movie, really great ensemble of actors, Tom McCarthy, and you get invited to work with a group of people like that. You just say yes. You just sit around and wait, for things like that to come along, and try not to do anything too embarrassing. work out every once in a while. You're not eating too many cheeseburgers.
Yell at me.
Yeah.
Yell at me.
Pick on Don.
Pick on me.
Oh yeah, I got Don on a triangle. I was wanting to make sure everyone knew that once. Don is a beast, and he came at me. Who shared the video?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, what? Oh, okay. So now, okay.
I'm sorry.
So,
We've really gone off the subject.
there we go. So we had a.
There's a couple
We had
months
a
ago,
day.
we wanted to have a jiu-jitsu day.
We want to have a, and that was fun, by the way.
Yeah.
So we brought in that guy, who's Chris Raymond. He was incredible. And I'd never done Muay Thai or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I got on the mat with this kid, and he was pretty tough. So Liev and I started play fighting a little bit, and I didn't.
Because Don could kill me if he wanted.
No,
I know.
no.
I know
I didn't
everyone
realize-
thinks.
I didn't
Everyone thinks I'm
realize-
Ray Donovan and I can box.
I didn't
But
realize.
he's
I didn't
really
realize
an animal.
when I started moving around with Liev, I didn't realize that he's trained a little bit with this stuff. So we actually have a video of him kind of locking me up in about 30 seconds.
It felt so good.
And I ended up posting
to
it.
be the
He's like, you
50-year-old guy
you posted that? I was like, what are you-
tapping out the 30-something-year-old guy.
I'm a
It felt
41-year-old.
so. You 41? It still felt really good.
He's got a bad hamstring, so go after his hamstring.
The hamstring's good. The hamstring has recovered since the stupidity. But I was a little shocked and realizing when you get on the mat with someone who knows, it's pretty humbling.
Well, what's the weight difference between you guys? Because being heavier is a huge advantage too.
You just
I used my weight on him. I
Yeah.
did. I used my weight on him. And he's such a bull. He's so strong. I mean, he's so powerful. And that's the beauty of jiu-jitsu is like you use
Come
someone's strength. You take their strength and you.
Yeah, but then he rubbed it in my face after, and he was like, you know what? You're not that strong. I'm like, what? What are you? No, it's just, I felt your grip, and I was like, well.
By the way, I'm terrible at jiu-jitsu. I know nothing about jiu-jitsu. That's why I'm so excited about this.
What was your first impression of Don when you started working with him?
Oh my God.
All right, come on, we got to ask a couple of these questions. What's your best Don Saladino story?
Sorry.
Well, he had a good recommendation from Hugh, which meant a lot to me because I really respect Hugh a lot, and so I knew he was the real deal. I think that there was a mentality around team sports that he keyed in on with me that was really effective, that I like to be coached. I like to be, and I think Don can speak this better than I can, but I think he finds a different thing with every client. He finds what's their psychology. How do I work with this person? He knew I had a competitive side. He knew I liked boxing. He knew he got me pretty quick, and he knew I responded to being pushed in a certain kind of way. And we just hit it off. I don't know, pretty quick. It was, it was apparent. It was pretty apparent to me that he knew what he was doing. I saw his outfit, and it was like he's also a solid businessman, and I was impressed by that. And it was, I was onto a good thing, and that that was sort of perfect timing for me because it's right as I was sort of getting into all the Ray Donovan of it and all that other stuff.
It's been fun too. There's been different roles, and I remember when you came to me for Chuck, that was something that we didn't spend a ton of time on it, but I remember that was something where it's normally people are coming to you and they want to look like.
Yeah, you want a 1970s body. You don't want a 2018 body.
He's like, come in my office. I'm going to show you something.
I had a really good director on that, Philippe Filardot, a French-Canadian director, and he was like, hey, yeah, I took off my shirt because I'd been training for Ray Donovan. He's like, no, you can't look like that. And I was like, why? He's like, you ripped. You look like trying to be on a TV show or something.
Well, we needed him to move and we needed him strong.
Yeah.
We needed a guy to come in just like, it's almost like sloppy. And I even remember, I remember everything about the conversations that I'd ever had with everyone. And I was like, okay, this is what I think we have to do. It looked great. I thought it was a great movie.
Yeah. He came by the set yesterday. They're about to erect a statue of him in Bayonne. Chuck Wepnam is a wonderful guy. Anyway.
Yeah, I noticed like a lot of times you will work with Don, but then sometimes when I was there, you'd come in and you just work, you just put your head down and you just work hard by yourself. Is that just something you do occasionally? Like you just want to focus on yourself? And
Yeah, I mean, once I've learned the basics, or, Don gives me programs a lot, that I like to work on my own sometimes. Sometimes I like to work with music. Sometimes I think these guys rest too much. Sometimes I like to go a little harder. And I can't lift nearly the amount of weight that Don can lift. But I have a thing where I get off on going fast.
He likes work capacity.
I like speed.
Yeah. He likes work capacity. And listen, we've got to play to that strength because he's good at it. And I know, and this is where like specific strength coaches, well, for this role, we want to get stronger. By getting stronger, we want to rest, 3 minutes. And I'm like, that's not, it's fine. It might be optimal by a fraction, but you're not going to see a huge difference on it. Fine. We don't care if you squat or bench 500 pounds. Like I need you to be good mentally. I need you to feel good physically. I need you to enjoy the workouts and actually get excited to come in. And I think it's great when he works out. Sometimes it's like by himself. It's like he's getting in the zone. He puts his head down. He go. And I think it's a healthy thing to do. But he knows I'm always here. And if he ever needs me to work with him, I always look forward to it. He's one of my favorite guys I've ever worked with. So.
Well, the acting thing's like, I mean, especially the series is like a marathon. I know when Benicio was doing the mini series or whatever, 6 shows it was killing him because it's long, right? He's used to a film and he's there for 8 or 6 months now. And how is that? How do you manage that? Like, in terms of.
I'm struggling with right now. I'll be honest with you. I'm going through a really tough time right now. Saw Don on the street complaining to him just about schedule and how tired you are. It's like, probably had 10 hours of sleep this week and it's not good for you. Just working too many nights, getting up too early with the kids. Nays in Venice, so it's been a little harder. I don't have my partner there to sort of pick up on the kid duty, but it makes you, if what doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. A lot of times in the 4th month of Ray, the training will really drop off badly. I don't exercise at all. My eating's terrible. Drinking picks up a little bit. And it's just it's just you go through these peaks and valleys, and you try and stay. You try and find a neutral line through it, or you try and find some consistency, and that's sort of where we are right now. Is just trying to get back on the horse. But it's something that I've known about Ray Donovan for as long as we've been doing it. It's a really, really grueling, difficult schedule, and frankly a character that I find difficult to play for too long, in long stretches of time. He's a very dark guy, and it's rough. So I just try to go easy on myself and remind myself that it's tough, what I'm trying to do, and stay positive, because it can get dark.
Just to give this one credit, because I've been working with her for a while, and we've actually, Blake, you've always trained like a guy.
Well, here's the thing. I think sorry, you're asking him the question, but I think that's an overgeneralization of women. When you say they tend to, that's always sort of.
Well, yeah, it is, and actually, and I'll come back to that because it is changing in the modern world.
Yeah, my generation, I can speak to millennials. We grew up understanding the emphasis of protein. We grew up with our parents going on the Atkins diet, cutting out all carbs, and then like Mr. Atkins passing away.
That's actually, thank you. That's a really good point. And you're right. Right.
So,
I'm 47, and the generation of women that I saw in the gym was that. I'm sorry, you are right. I'm overgeneralizing to my being an old fart. And I still see women doing it. But you are right. In the era of Instagram and Facebook, and women are seeing, okay, here's a female power lifter who looks amazing. Here's these females that are lifting some heavy-ass weights who look phenomenal. And I actually have seen a really big influx of women in the sports of powerlifting, Olympic lifting, in the weight room, training much more appropriately. So actually, that's a very good point, and I appreciate you making it. Because what I was going to say is, if you look at that endless aerobics, excess carbs, it ties in with the physiology. Women's muscles actually tend to spare muscle glycogen, right? They do burn proportionally more fat than men during aerobic exercise, but it's still a very small absolute amount, and it tends to come from intramuscular, the fat stored within the muscle.
So, but what you're saying to women is weight train more.
Well, that, and also, and this is also where high intensity interval training can come in very handy. So we know that in general, whatever a muscle's full of, it uses for fuel, right? So if a muscle's full of glycogen all the time, it will pick carbohydrates for fuel. So women will use fat during aerobic exercise, but burn carbs the rest of the day. Men use carbs during aerobic exercise, but shift to fat because they deplete their muscle glycogen. So as soon as you get women to get off the cardio grind, frequently raise their calories so they're not having those metabolic effects, get them to get enough sufficient protein, which invariably tends to go along with getting them into proper resistance training because it's just part of that subculture. They moderate their carbs. Suddenly they start depleting their muscle glycogen. And this occurs if they get into high intensity interval training proper. When they're going 45 seconds hard, 45 to 60 seconds rest, they start depleting muscle glycogen. Proper weight training does it. And they turn themselves into, as much as I hate to use the phrase, a fat burning machine. Basically, when they start training, because what does a man do when he wants to get in shape? He lifts weights and he eats protein.
But before she has to go, because I know she's got her, we have our appointment downstairs. Can you quickly, we talked about the entertainment effect earlier.
Yeah.
And we talked about how.
Wait, just to close the loop on that thing. I think the biggest, sorry, I'm just going to pipe in here because no one invited me to. I think that the biggest thing is that when men go to the gym, their general goal is to build and grow. And so what we've seen since, I don't know, the beginning of time or Arnold Schwarzenegger is like, oh, you lift weights. And then women's goal generally is to tighten up. And that ends up being slimming. And you think like, oh, if men are doing this to build, then cardio is the thing that's going to trim down. So I think it's just more about shifting the mentality that like that it's about how you build. It's about what weights you lift, what intensity you do it at. Because it's not just like, oh, weights build muscle where cardio slims you down. It's about how you use those things. You and I always went more intense on lifting. We've always done weights. So it's just more about the conversation shifting to, because like, all of the nuances, like if people are really into it, they can talk about how you burn carbs versus how you burn fat and all of that. But I think that like if you eat a well-balanced diet and then it just shifts the conversation from like cardio isn't the way to slim down and tighten up. But if you do,
I agree. But even saying a balanced diet, I do. Again, what I typically saw, again, this is my generation, what I saw as a trainer, women weren't eating anything. They were eating 80% carbs because protein, and they just didn't have a taste for protein. So yes, now that protein is
12-year-olds now are like running from carbs. It's terrifying. It's like you look at young girls on Instagram and they're like,
I got upset the other day, and hear me out. My daughter's 10 years old. And I was shocked. I actually got upset. She looked at me. She goes, "I got to go on a diet." And I said, "Oh, geez, honey." I'm like, "What do you see? That's nonsense. Like, I'm a fitness guy. No, you're fine. You make good food choices." But it's this whole thought process. And absolutely, it's disturbing to me that my 10-year-old girl would actually think that. We're in life right now. All I'm trying to do is just steer her in a good direction. Let her make some good, solid choices on her own, and make sure that my parenting sets her up for success in the future. But dieting, I think that's...
And I think even that will be generational. We have generations of women starting their little girls on diets at very early ages. And we've now got a generation that's grown up on the internet with knowledge about why this is so damaging, that I do think, well, at least I hope going forwards, we're going to see when the millennials start having kids, assuming they're not destroying the childbirth industry, because my understanding is millennials are destroying every industry, right? I think that's all.
Well, because you're not a millennial. That's what everyone's afraid of millennials. So. Well,
but my parents were afraid of my generation.
Totally, I know. Like everybody's afraid of the next generation because they
afraid of the ones after you. But
totally
not being so obnoxious. But I wonder. I certainly hope that this is going to have a feed forward effect. Your generation, who's coming up with access to much better information, will be teaching that to their children, and hopefully will get out. Eventually a lot of that older information it's pathological. It's a pathological approach to health, fitness, dieting, and everything. Hopefully that will at least die down.
All right, well, listen, I would love to continue this conversation. I could talk for hours on this. Thank you for making an appearance.
Yes, thank you.
Lyle, We got to meet in person, man. This was stimulating.
Okay.
I love
Yeah,
it.
please,
Derek,
absolutely.
I love you, bud.
I was just along for the ride, man.
He's in Vancouver. That's where this
No
guy's
way.
from. With my podcast partner, Derek Hansen.
Oh
in
man, you
Vancouver.
gotta go get some rain or shine. Speaking of diet,
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing. I think we put too much emphasis on diet, and that's the thing that Don always says to me. Is he's like, try not to eat processed foods, like, and it's a luxury if you can afford to, like, you know, buy foods like from a farmer's market or organic food, like, you know,
Yeah.
as long as you're not eating processed food and you're finding the balance between protein, greens, and a carb, then go have that ice cream, go have that
It
cookie, because
doesn't have to be
otherwise
that hard,
you're gonna
yeah.
go crazy. Like, you gotta, if you want to go long term, like, eat what you love, but you know,
Absolutely.
find
I agree.
balance. So
I agree completely. I wish more people did it, and it's hard to get them just very randomly to finish. We're talking about, you know, goals, and this paper just came out. It's 2 years and 1 month long. Just one researcher. And he had folks come in, and all they focused on was getting fitter. This is a very properly, logically periodized weight training aerobic program over 2 years. All they focused on was, I just want to get fitter and healthier. And they all lost weight. And I think that's a really interesting contrast to people who come in and go, I want to lose weight, because you're never going to be happy with that. The numbers never go down quickly enough. It's an end criterion that, while useful, can be extremely damaging and self-defeating. So there's a logic to, if you just come in and just start working on training more intensely, to your point, just eating, you know, moderately and quote unquote healthily with a balance of the different macros, you'll probably get to where you need to be, and you'll be a lot fitter and healthier and functional than if your goal was must lose weight.
well, yeah, because when you're fit, you actually gain weight because of muscle. So like, there's times when the scale goes up and I'm in better shape, and it's very confusing. But
Well, I always say, I'm like,
it's all
well,
about
are you
education.
more concerned with what the scale says, or are you more concerned with how you look and how you feel?
But even that is something that it has traditionally been difficult to get. You know, there's these magic body weights. I had a girl years ago, and she's like, I want to weigh 135. Why? Where does this arbitrary number come from? Is it because that's a bar and a wheel on each side on a bench press? Like, I don't know where these numbers come from. But even women who know about body composition, I know a lot of physique competitors, when their body weight starts to move up and down during menstrual cycle dynamics and stuff, they know better, and it still drives them nuts. There's still just this.
because everybody has body dysmorphia, but also the media says, "Oh, this person," and they quote their weight, or you know, there's such an emphasis on it that, like, how do we not put an emphasis on it? You know.
But getting people out of that mindset is just so difficult to do, because, oh, my body weight's up, and then they go, but I've lost inches and my clothes fit better. Okay, what's more important?
Yeah.
You know, what is more important to you, that this arbitrary number is up by a couple pounds because you had some salt, or that you look better, feel better, clothes fit better?
But there's some ads, like there's some ads where it shows like all these women of different shapes and sizes and colors and ethnicities and backgrounds and all of that, and they're all the same weight. And there's more responsible, I think, messaging now, and
Agreed.
it's about perpetuating that.
I agree.
We gotta go kick some butt.
She's gonna go fight.
Okay. Well,
It was, you know, it's funny. I mean, you always think about, I mean, I always think about it. What if, you know, you didn't go there, or what if I didn't go here, or
Right.
there, you know, you always think, like, because when I played baseball at Sacred Heart University, it was a small school, but I don't know if you remember this, but the two people who influenced me to go there was you and my baseball coach, Jay Haga.
Yeah.
We went to Doremo's,
Yeah.
we got some pizza one day. I'm sitting down. I was so confused between UMass Amherst and Sacred Heart, and Sacred Heart just felt right. And I remember you turning to me and you were like, go to the smaller school.
Mhm.
Like it's still a great program, this and that. And I thought about it, I'm like, it just feels right. If you think about it, you could have went and played anywhere else. You probably could have went and played at schools that maybe had more notoriety for the
Right.
game. But you making that tournament, that Sweet 16 with a smaller school like Miami of Ohio, and then you really excelling and shining in that tournament. What'd you have, 43?
Yep.
That one game? Look at me, man. I'm telling you, I know my stats. That had to have, I mean, maybe if you went to a bigger school, wouldn't have worked out that way. You
Well,
know?
that's what I was concerned about. You know, if I would have gone to St. John's, Felipe Lopez was there. He was one of the top recruits in the country. You know, maybe I wouldn't have gotten the playing time. Maybe the coaches wouldn't have been invested in developing me and allowing me to play through mistakes and get better. And that's why I love Miami. You know, it wasn't easy when I got there. My freshman year, I only averaged 8 points. It was a really good team. Then sophomore year, I think I averaged 14. And then junior and senior, I averaged 25 and 25. So it took me 2 years to kind of figure it out.
to get better and pay my dues and work on my game. And, I give the coaching staff and the school a lot of credit because they developed really, really good players coming out of it. Had a good program for a long time.
But it was amazing also, Derek, because physically, I remember Wally in high school. He was tall, but his body, he didn't have he didn't have that posture. It was almost a little awkward and walking around. He was almost like his body was growing too fast. And I remember him coming back freshman year, and it seemed like it was 4 years later. Because I'm like, what the hell happened to you? He was like, yeah, I started working out. I'm like, so did I. Like, your body literally, it just clicked, and you look like you put on. Derek, you look at certain people who just respond really well to the training that they have. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because you had some good strength coaches that influenced you pretty well, all the way up through the NBA with Walter and
Walter Norton.
Walter Norton, who I know very well. I mean,
Celtics. He's a great guy. But our strength coach at Miami of Ohio, his name is Dan Dalrymple. He's actually with the Saints now. Since he's moved on to work with the New Orleans Saints, he won a Super Bowl ring with them when they won a few years back. He was amazing, and we lifted really passionately as a team. And I remember my first coach, Herb Sendek. He was more into running the track. And, make sure you get a 5-minute mile, run the track, get in shape, this and that. But when he left and our new coach took over, Charlie Coles, he kind of did away with track work, and he did more strength work and more agility work and more basketball specific training. And for me, that was just like so much better because, being 240 pounds, being 6'7", basketball players are not meant to be just running long distance around the track over and over and over. I think more specific, catered stuff to the game of basketball was what we needed. And Dan Dalrymple trained us tremendously. We would be squatting, cleaning,
hang clean. I remember you got it.
I remember there was a point where I hang clean 315, with straps. I could squat 450 and I benched 350. And we lifted like a football team. We really did. We looked for explosiveness. That's one of the reasons why my senior year, why we made the Sweet 16, because we were a very physically strong team. We weren't the tallest team because we were a mid-major team. We were going up against other guys like on Utah and Washington, that were really elite size athletes. But we had serious strength advantage because of the time we put in the weight room. And for me, I just think that was the big difference in college. Because going into college, you mentioned I averaged 37 points a game in high school. So all the skill was there. Yeah. It was just kind of blending the physical attributes with the skill level that I was coming into college with. And that's what Dan Dalrymple, Miami of Ohio, their strength program, that's what they did for me. And that's what really catapulted me.
I really think that plays a big toll in everything too. Like when you went for your pro tryouts and, next, you're going shirtless and you're doing these things that I think were really smart. I don't know if that was you thinking that or your dad being like, take your shirt off, because part of it
was actually my agent.
Yeah. But really, really, really smart. I mean, you have these scouts now sitting there looking and go, Jesus, this guy puts that time in, and look at this work ethic and look at look at where he came from. I mean, your father, one of the biggest influences in your career. I mean, and I always joke around with you about it, but Big Walt, who is like, he's like another dad to me. I mean, he really groomed you from day one. I mean, it was Friday nights, Derek, when, everyone in our high school would be going out partying, and he'd be going down there at 14, 15 years old, playing in these pro pickup games with guys who are in the NBA, the ABA, playing over in Europe. So Wally was exposed to this at younger than that. I mean, at a really young age, right?
Well, my dad was my basketball mentor. He really was. He taught me everything about the game. When he retired at 32, he continued to play in various summer leagues, winter leagues on Long Island. And I was just that little kid that was tagging along, with one of the guys. And I loved it. And I loved being a part of that kind of locker room atmosphere, the camaraderie, after the games, going and grabbing a burger and a Coke, at the local restaurant. And that's kind of, where I got my bug and where I got my interest. And my dad was, I owe everything to him as far as what I accomplished in basketball. I really do. He saw that I had a gift. He saw that I enjoyed playing, and he always made it fun for me. And that's the one thing whenever I speak to camps and go talk to kids, I tell them, I'm like, you got to play the game of basketball because you enjoy it and you love it and you do it for the fun of it. You know, when this game becomes a job, it never was a job for me, even when I played 10 years in the NBA. It was always just joy on my face when I was out there playing in a basketball game. And my dad really instilled that in me. You know, you mentioned the hard work in order to get better. It never felt like work because it always felt like fun. And, you know, he really taught me all that. And it was a huge advantage, I think, for me, especially in the NBA and college, when I could have a game where maybe I shot, you know, 5 for 20 and I struggled. And I could call him after the game and say, Dad, what do you think? What was I doing wrong? You know, what do I have to do, you know, to get better at that, to get better on the defensive end of the floor? And, you know, he had that experience because he was such a great player too. He won 3 European titles with Real Madrid. He played in the ABA. He played for George Washington. So he was a great player.
Considered one of the better players in Spain, though, right? I mean,
one of the best all time.
Yeah, one of the best all time
He's
players.
still considered one of the best all-time players internationally, other than the NBA.
And he can still shoot, by the way. I know from Pool Horse. We get those Pool Horse games going. He's got that high. He's got that jump shot. The guy's
a
still
little more of a head case. Yeah.
You know, it's funny you said that. On the way in, driving in today, I heard at least 2, it might have been 3 commercials, you know, with the tagline of, you know, hey, are you over 40? Are you feeling sluggish? Is your wife complaining? Do you wish you still look like you did? You know, that's the thing, right? And so, of course, I'm over 40, so it got my attention. Like, oh, what are we doing? And it was exactly that, right? It was a doctor or a medical, some kind of medicine distributor, right? Pushing some, you know, some testosterone pills or you guys know what that is, you know. So here's my answer to that, Don. We are not singly focused, right? We're not a large agency, but we have great task force and we have great diversion investigators. So just because we're very focused on the opioid thing on the diversion side of the house, we're just as focused on methamphetamine, heroin, cocaine, you know, used to be crack. You know, thankfully crack has kind of has gotten off the streets a little bit. It's still around, but you know, we're still focused on the big 5 or the big 6 or whatever you want to say. The opioids thing is just another thing that, you know, that we have to work on and focus on. But we also haven't walked away from the steroid thing. You know, where I sit in Hawaii right now, I got briefed yesterday on 2 ongoing steroid cases that we're doing here. And the steroids are coming out of the Philippines and they're coming out of China. So here's the scary part, Don, that you're not going to want to hear. It is 1,000 times easier to get those drugs now because of the dark web. So all you need is a Bitcoin account and a post office box. No questions are asked. If you got on the dark web right now and put, I want to buy testosterone in Google, you'll get 30 hits and it's going to ask you what's your Bitcoin account number or, you know, whatever your virtual currency is. And it's going to ask you what the address is. And depending on where you live, it'll arrive in your doorstep within a week. And no one is going to know the better. It is out of control. Not only is it steroids, people are buying cocaine, methamphetamine, heroin, and especially that's how fentanyl's coming to the U.S. It's coming from China, either through Mexico or directly from China in the mail. Right. And I know nobody wants to hear that, but those are the facts.
A guy's coming to you right now and they're saying, I want to get really strong. I want to put muscle on. What are the principles? I know it's going to take time. What are the principles you want me to pay attention to? Can you give them the kind of bullet point list to follow, or her?
The very first thing, the most important thing, by far, consistency. If you don't, you can't gain muscle if you're not in the gym, and you can't lose fat if you're not consistent with your diet. So, you know, when people talk about this diet or that diet, or high carb, or low carb, or whatever, it doesn't fucking matter if you can't stick to it. Mm-hmm. So, and people when I was on the Joe Rogan podcast, Joe made a big point about, well, these people just aren't disciplined. And that is part of it. Like you need a certain amount of discipline. But I think the point that I would say Joe maybe missed a little bit was that you need discipline, but I want to get somebody on a diet that requires the minimal amount of discipline for them. And here's why. When do people tend to fail their diets? It's not when they're at home cooking their meals, their life is good, they're healthy, everybody's
stress. Stress when they're out of their element. Yeah, when they're out of their element.
So I want something that when somebody has to fall back on it, it's the easiest thing in the world for them to stick to. Because when the shit hits the fan, if your diet requires you to cook every single meal and pre-package it and all that kind of, it's not gonna work. You know what I mean? And if you're waiting, like I told you, if you're waiting to get serious about this to when your life has no stress, well, good luck. You know what I mean? Life is stress. That's just how it is. And especially if you're a motivated, busy person, your life is going to be, I always tell people, somebody with no stress, and I'll show you a loser. So,
love it. I love that.
There's good stress and there's bad stress, but it's still stress. So, I think that, yes, it requires discipline. But let's go to the other end and try to find something that works for people that requires a little. Now, for some people, maybe that is keto because they say, hey, I hate tracking calories. I hate doing that. But you know what? If I cut out carbs, I don't really have to think about it, and I eat less just by default. Okay, fine. I'm a libertarian, bro. Do whatever you want, Right. But for some people, that's intermittent fasting, that sort of thing. But don't tell me it's better, right? Just don't try to sell to me the magic bullet, right? We have now 32 studies in existence that have compared calorie-equated, protein-equated diets that differ in carbs and fats, okay? And the overall consensus, Kevin Hall did a nice meta-analysis of this data. The overall consensus was that there's basically no difference.
Yeah, exactly. I knew you were going to say that too. I already knew it.
There actually was a little bit of difference in favor of fat restriction, actually.
Really? Go figure.
Yeah, like very little. Like basically an extra 26 grams of fat loss per day from fat restriction, which is actually, to me, is not a big physiological benefit. To me, adherence trumps that, right? So if somebody says, hey, I do better on low carb, high fat, it's easier for me to stick to, then that's more important than 26 grams extra fat loss a day if they're able to stick to it.
And part of the reason those old spots are so good is because I believe it. They have these grills that have been there forever, and so there's like it's seasoned itself over the year. So it's just special. Yeah, that's why I never wash my popcorn. I got a whirly pop. You got the whirly pop? I got the whirly pop. It's a popcorn pan that spins and it keeps it, so you don't have to shake it.
Yeah.
But I never wash it because it's just got this coating of like.
Wait, I just heard about someone doing. Again, I'm watching like one of the food channel. It might have been Guy Fieri. It was Guy Fieri's show, and they were cooking. They had this bin of like fat, like grease. And they've been using that grease, the same grease they've been using for like 70 years.
Well, I don't know about that.
It sounds disgusting.
I'm just saying, I don't want
but there's a way. I forgot. Trust me, everyone hears this. I'm not lying. But they use the same grease, and they actually like deep fry the burgers in this grease. And I'm like, that sounds like the most disgusting thing ever. But people are like, it's the greatest tasting thing ever. I do like you. You want to know what I do like? You want to talk about fried food? I like fried Oreos.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Fried Oreos.
I didn't understand it.
I didn't understand it. Yeah.
And then it was like, oh wait a minute, or fried Mars bar.
Never had that. Really?
Yeah.
You guys got to work out again.
I used to, when I'd be getting ready for like something like some, like this cover shoot that I just did, I would watch the Food Channel.
Really? As like,
I'd just be like, I like to mentally challenge myself and do specific things. So I'd watch there, and the one show that would really start getting me to freak out a little bit was that show Carnival Eats.
I don't know. Oh, I can only imagine.
Yeah, so they basically, it's like the best carnival food in the country. So this guy travels around to different carnivals, and they go to like well-known foods that like has been like epic stuff. And it's like, I mean, some of the stuff you look at is like, this is disgusting. I would never enjoy it. And then if you actually ever try it, so I've tried a couple. They're actually pretty good.
God, that's all I can think about now. I'm awful. My wife calls me an advertiser's dream because I'll see something on TV, like on a show, Law and Order, they're eating a piece of pizza. I'm like, I have to have pizza right now. Right now, I can't think of anything else. I thought about a burger the other day. couldn't rest until
Best
I had a burger.
hamburger in the city.
I don't know, but I can't say that definitively. But I can tell you, I was at Madison Square Garden, and they had what's it called? There's a burger. No, because now they're all shishi.
Oh,
They got like Bouchon, or they got like but they had a burger that was like almost on an English muffin, and it was caramelized bacon, onions, and on a cheeseburger. It was heavenly.
Pig Bleecker.
Oh,
Their
the
white
truffle burger.
white truffle burger at Pig Bleecker. It's a specific. It almost looks like this English muffin bun, and they literally, when white truffles were in season, they dump white truffles on it. And
this podcast going the wrong direction, guys.
And I was going to say, quick change to something.
The point is this: you can have your cake and eat it too.
Yes.
That's the point. Like,
I just want to tell Drew, like, when you came out of the swamp, you know what it reminded me of? Schwarzenegger in the first Terminator when he time traveled and he had no clothes on.
I'll take it. You're my new favorite person. For the record, there is a Schwarzenegger connection to my character. So before I was Grundy, I was Butch. And at the end of season 2, Butch has this Gatling gun that he shoots, and he explodes this bus. That Gatling gun was used in two other times in film. Can you guess what they might be?
Predator?
I got it.
Yep.
He did it in Commando?
No.
Predator? No?
Predator?
Yeah,
Predator. Okay,
Predator,
that was my
that's
next
one. And then the other one is Terminator 2.
I mean, and for those of you out there who aren't familiar with beautiful destinations, I mean, this is kind of where I go. Like, it's like almost like you go there to daydream at times. I mean, literally, I mean, it really is. It is kind of cool. Like, one of my favorite, most recent posts was someone put one up of Quebec, and it looked like it was like exactly how you wanted things to look around Christmas time. And it's just every day. I mean, you've got photographers all around the world, and it seems like they're just going for that money shot. And you guys are putting that up, and it's featuring these different cities, countries, whatever it might be. But now you're really starting to tie that in with, I guess, different, governments, commerce, whatever it might be, to where they're inviting you in now because you're actually starting to drive tourism, aren't you?
Yeah. So I mean,
that's crazy.
I think it comes from the insight that we spend so much time on our mobile phones now that if people are spending time on mobile, and that's where most of their consumer attention is, there has to be ways to engage people on a mobile that's different to if you were advertising them on TV or in a magazine. And so our whole business is basically built on the idea that people spend time on mobile. So if you're a travel brand, whether you're a government trying to build a tourism product, or whether you're a hotel trying to sell rooms, or an airline trying to sell flights, if you're not creating content that's specifically for mobile and then specifically for social media, you're missing out on the opportunity to really inspire people where they want to be talked to. So our whole business is basically working with these brands, working with these governments, and saying, hey, let's translate all those great things that you're doing in your normal marketing, let's translate it into mobile. And then Beautiful Destinations now is one of the largest travel media brands in the world. There's 20 million people that will come every day to us on Instagram, on Facebook, on Snapchat. 2 million of those are on Weibo in China. So we have a huge global footprint, about 180 different countries. So if you want to get access to those consumers, and like you said, you looked, I think you told me when we first met, you saw that, and then you texted your wife straight away, and you're like, hey, listen, doesn't that remind you of a place that we should go to? So it's kind of like that being the focal point of starting conversation about travel. We just want to be the destination that people will come to, and then use it as a way to work with governments and hotels.
But it's Beautiful Destinations is the main, that's the main like mother company, and then right underneath that you have, was it Beautiful Hotels now?
Yeah. So Beautiful Destinations is where we tell stories about places. So if you're the tourism minister of a country, or you're the leader of a government, and you want to raise the profile of your tourism product, we talk about you on Beautiful Destinations. If you're the chief marketing officer of Marriott or Hilton or another big hotel brand, we have Beautiful Hotels, which is where we talk to you. And then Beautiful Cuisines, which is probably the fastest growing area of our businesses, is about food. Yeah. People just love social media and food. People just love, I mean, you see the Instagram accounts, they just love food, right? They just want to see food content. So we're starting to do a lot of that, from going into restaurants and actually filming the way that they make dishes that are really famous.
Oh, wow.
All the way down to like, these crazy desserts that you see all over New York City that people go crazy for, like, Black Tap Burger that has that like what is that, stacked ice cream, all that kind of stuff.
So you're already probably accumulating your favorite spots and foods and restaurants, which is pretty cool.
Places to stay, places to eat.
How do you manage all that? Like if you have, I mean, I don't know how many people you have working with you, but you have all these images and all this information and content. Who manages that?
Right, so we've got 30 people in the office here in New York, and then there's a network around the world of a couple of hundred photographers and videographers that have been trained in the beautiful destination style, know our tone of voice, know how to shoot content for us, and they'll send us content from all over the world. So it's an internal team that is like kind of the nuts and bolts of things, and then there's an external network of contributors and creators that we work with as well. But it's a process.
I'm sure.
Yeah, it's a big machine.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So now fitness though, because fitness. I mean, the one thing I was impressed with you about was you walk the walk, man. I mean, you know, I'm a fitness guy. I mean, I respect people who put the time in and who kind of go after that performance physique and where that they can perform. I mean, you're obviously an athlete, but you take your shirt off and you can back it up. How are you tying that now into beautiful destinations? I mean, it is, you and I've had the conversation on how travel is. It's part of your well-being. This is part of what I consider recovery. And when you're breaking out in eye infections, it means you're not resting properly enough, and there's things going on that these are indicators that your body's telling you need a break. So now I know you're crazy smart. You're starting to think about how to tie that into the travel. And can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, again, it's coming from this insight that what consumers really care about today is very different to what it used to be. And we know that all the data is suggesting the next generation of consumers really cares about travel, and they really care about health and well-being. They're more conscious about their health than they've ever been before. There's an explosion in the industry that you guys know better than anyone, and trying to be a place where we can be positive role models for people and say, hey, listen, if you're going to get out into the world and travel, if you're going to get out into the world and build a career and start working, you need to have your base level fitness there. You need to be looking at the way you eat. You need to be looking at the way that you sleep. I know we've talked a bunch about ways so you can recover from going out and training, and I think all of it comes from this understanding that if you want to perform at your very best, you have to take care of all these different facets of your life.
Listen, I love to eat and I love food. You know, and there's nothing better. You know that when you're going out and you're letting your hair down, you're enjoying it. But one thing that stresses me out is when I go on vacation, I want to do that and I want to be able to have that burger, be able to eat something I typically wouldn't eat here. But I don't want to do it all day because my body feels like crap. So when I go away, yes, a vacation for me is not completely shutting down. It's being able to, you know, let my hair down a little bit, but still have access to good food, still have access to a really good gym, good training. I mean, there's people in the city. Last night I went and I took a hot yoga class. It was sold out by the time I got in there. These people want to go away and they want to have access to that type of, those type of amenities. Yet any spot that I go to, any hotel that I go to, it's rare that you see that full package.
So this is a massive, what you're touching on is a huge trend that we're seeing in the travel and hotel spaces. This need for them to be able to provide kind of end-to-end health services from kind of the base level, which is expected, which is a decent spa and a decent gym, but all the way through to you know, being able to help with mental health, being able to help with recovery, being able to help with things that are just extended outside the gym. And all the top hotels now are investing serious dollars in being able to do that because consumers are demanding it. Like